Welcome to Season 2 of Classical Education, a podcast for those who believe in rediscovering the art of asking questions, engaging in conversation, and attending to the ideas at the heart of well-ordered teaching and learning. Adrian Fries and Trey Bailey invite you to join them on a journey in pursuit of the true, the good, and the beautiful, as we participate in the great conversation and listen to the many voices coming from the world of classical education. Before we start our show, I wanted to remind our listeners that we are a listener-supported podcast. If you're a fan of our podcast, please join us for a very special Patreon-sponsored event. We're hosting a free online listening party with our favorite music professor, Dr. Carol Reynolds, and a rising star cellist, Justin Hall. This musical event will be streamed live on October 22nd at 3 o'clock Central and 3 o'clock Eastern and 2 o'clock Central. Enjoy beautiful live music and spirited conversation from a rising young musician and a world-class music professor and guide. Hear a live defense of good music and gain new skills for listening to classical music. And interact with the hosts, myself and Trey, and other supporters of the Classical Education Podcast. If you want a Zoom link to this free event, please email me at beautifulteaching@gmail.com. That's beautifulteaching@gmail.com. Or join our Patreon page at patreon.com/classical education. That's patreon.com/classical education. And through our Patreon page, that is how you can financially support our podcast. But this event is a free live event, and you do not have to be a Patreon member to enjoy this event. Simply email me again at beautifulteaching@gmail.com. All right. Well, today we're here with the founder of Reformation Wall School in Nigeria, Daniel. And I'm sorry, I forgot to find out how to pronounce your last name.
Okay. My name is Daniel Olushola.
Okay, great. We are so excited to hear
Yeah.
about the good work that you are doing in Nigeria with the classical school there. I think you said it's about 4 years old. And if I'm wrong, correct me, but we're really excited to hear what you're doing.
You're
I'm
correct.
so excited. When I saw some of your posts on Facebook, I was like, I've got to get to know this guy and hear more about his school and the good work you're doing. So we're just going to go ahead and let you have the floor and give us your story. Tell us stories, all kinds of stories, and what has led
All
you to
right.
where you are today.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me to have this conversation. I don't usually get invitations to talk, but I'm really excited to always talk about the work that we are doing down here in Nigeria. So my name is Daniel Olushola. I finished university in 2015. I studied mechanical engineering. But then after doing that, or before I graduated from the university, I used to just teach young pupils privately. Parents invite me to come teach them in maths, grammar, and all the other subjects. And from there, I was able to. I just knew I had this desire to teach. I just wanted to teach, but around 2016, I was now thinking of what I would want to spend the entire of my life doing, and I really felt the need to go into education. But yeah, I just felt like I believed what I ought to do was to get a very somewhere that is very aesthetic, nice, beautiful, and just continue the work that our government education was doing here. So that was the way I was thinking about it. Because if you come to Nigeria typically and you look at a classroom, there's no effort made at making the classroom conducive for young children. Basically, children just come to classrooms, they probably sit on the floor, the walls are not painted, some of the classrooms don't even have them. So I came with the goal of coming to make the environment more conducive, but I still had the idea of retaining whatever curriculum the government was actually propagating at that point. But then before the school started, September 11th, 2017. Um, I stumbled on a YouTube video. I've forgotten, it's a Catholic school in the US. I can't really remember the name of the Catholic school. I think it was founded by a retired Navy general, something like that, or a retired Navy person. So I saw the school. I'm like, wow, this is really awesome, and I would want to learn about classical education. So, and this was why I started reading a lot I could find on the internet about
Mhm.
classical education. I stumbled on a thesis that was written by someone. Sorry, I can't really remember their names now. And I was able to read through the entire thesis. And what I saw was really good. I saw how classical education is focused on raising virtuous humans, things like that. I started encountering truth, goodness, and beauty, and all these classical terms that were used. But at that period, I had no idea of what it was. So I just decided to let me just give it a try. So in 2017, we started Reformation Wall. Um, we started with, like, we did not have all the resources, the curriculums, and the rest of them. I was still an amateur in classical education. I just started with the hopes that I would learn on the job and I would be able to transform the school into a classical school. We started, and the school did not fully become classical until I think 2019. That was when we became classical. It's been a very, I would say, very tough journey, but I would rather not do anything else with my life. This is just
Mhm.
the only thing I want to do with my life because it is exciting. I'm learning a lot. It has opened my mind to read books that in my entire life I wouldn't have ever, read. I've read a couple of books. I'm currently reading the Iliad.
Mhm.
I think it was the translation by Fagles. And then I'm reading Plato's Republic. These are not things that I have ever encountered in my life at
You're making
university
me
level.
cry. I'm crying over here. It's just so
Yeah,
beautiful that
yeah.
you are. What I love about your story is Trey and I completely relate with this is your life work. This is what you want to do.
Mm,
It brings so much joy.
mm.
And just to hear that you're being so brave to do something that's so new to you and love that. It's so beautiful. Yeah,
Thank
keep
you.
going. Keep
Thank you.
going. I'm sorry. I'm just
Yeah.
over here. I'm crying and
So,
I'm having a hard.
um, okay. So, over the years, we in fact, the way I started school in a two-bedroom apartment. We were so, like, it was just tiny rooms that we just took in children, and at that point, I started trying to furnish my mind with ideas of beauty. I wanted to know how a classroom ought to look like, what a classroom ought to look like. What is the classical idea of the school aesthetics and the rest of them? And even though I think we are still far from where we ought to be, I think we are actually far from where we used to be. We've been able to leave. We left the two-bedroom apartment 2 years ago, and we moved into a bigger building where I think the current building can accommodate up to 200 students. But we where we were at the other apartments, we're very few, 15, 20. So we're just growing. We're over 30 at the moment. And what is even encouraging is that what parents have been telling us as a school is so encouraging. I think what keeps me going is hearing parents that this school is different. What this school is teaching our kids is so different from what they are teaching other kids. It's really it's really encouraging hearing statements like that from parents. And yeah, and secondly, I would say one of the things that has really helped our community has been the open-mindedness that we have in learning from various. I think there are different segments of this classical education, and I'm still grooming myself to understand each of them. But Hillsdale College has been a helpful platform that personally I have learned a lot from, and I am helping my staff and faculties to actually learn from Hillsdale College. Yeah.
Right, because they offer so many beautiful free courses online, and I
They
imagine
do.
that um, being in Nigeria, your resources to books is limited. Is that correct?
It's extremely limited. In fact,
Hmm.
for me to get the books by Homer and Vigil and the rest of them, a friend staying in the US had to ship them down to us.
Mm, yeah.
Wow. Well, I have so many questions. I mean, this is amazing. One thing
Thank you.
I would love to hear is if you're still using the curriculum that's required by the government, are you
Okay,
supplementing? And then also, how are you taking that curriculum and teaching it classically differently?
okay. We are not using any of government curriculum at the moment. Uh, yes, I know. One of the things I have come to understand is that if we want to actually do this, we have to go all in. There is no need of using government curriculum to supplement whatever we're doing. Okay, well, what we are doing currently, because of our capacity at the moment, is we formed partnership with Rafiki Foundation. I know you've heard of them, Rafiki Foundation.
Mm.
I think they have their headquarters based in Florida, in the U.S.
How do you
They have
what was that foundation called? How do you spell it?
Rafiki,
So Rafiki, yeah.
Rafiki.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it means friend, right?
Okay.
yes, yes. So their headquarters is based in Florida, I believe. We've been able to form partnership with them, and they currently supply our school with the curriculums. All the curriculums are actually shipped from the US. Um,
Wow.
but the beauty is that when it comes to Nigeria here, even it makes sense here too. It's not like we have to bend in any form to try to in quotes contextualize it. We don't have to do that. The truth, the goodness, and the beauty that we get from this curriculum is the same. It's universal. So we
Hmm.
don't have to bend. Yeah.
Mm. I love that you call it truth, goodness, and beauty is universal. That is so
Mm,
true. Because when something is true, it's true. And you see it.
it is
And there's gonna be
indeed.
beauty there. I
Yeah.
love that. Um, Trey, what questions do you have? I'm sure a lot.
Yeah, I've just enjoyed listening to the story here, and I wonder if you could give us a bit of background information. You talked a bit about sort of the environment that school children sometimes find themselves in some of the other local schools, and how you wanted to provide uh, something something better. Maybe talk a bit more about that, and perhaps talk a bit about the state of education in your country
Mhm.
and some of the things that you're working up against.
All right. Um, I think from some of the little research I've made, I've realized that it's not every human that you encounter that has a sense of beauty.
Mm.
And I realized that within the Nigerian context, for you to find someone that has deep appreciation for beauty, it's actually rare. And
Mhm.
when you come with concepts like that, people look at you like you're strange, you're a nerd or something like that. They just give
Mm.
you a kind of name or this kind of look that they want to exclude you because they're just used to things being disorganized. They're used to things not looking,
Mm.
having a higher kind of aspiration, not just letting yourself be comfortable with the basic things. So this, if you look at the private schools in Nigeria and the public schools, the only difference probably is the way they are monitored to teach their classrooms. What I
Mm.
mean by that is in government schools, teachers are not monitored. So a teacher can skip classes, wouldn't bother about that. Children are not learning anything. They don't know how to read.
Mm.
They can't, analyze mathematical equations and the rest of them. But in private schools, you have teachers. Of course, they have to be there because they are accountable to their employers. So um, in the classroom, you would notice that even in private schools, the environment, like the way things are organized, you just see how maybe on the wall things are just scattered around the wall, right? You just see
Hmm.
how that is a reflection of the unorganized mind
Mm.
that they are carrying. If you get into a typical Nigerian classroom, trust me, you wouldn't want to be there. You won't be comfortable at all. It's not conducive. In fact, I think this might sound extreme. I don't think humans should be staying in such classrooms, right? Humans shouldn't be staying in such classrooms. So, but for us at Reformation Wall School, and we have some pictures that we share online. We always try as much as possible to make our classrooms very conducive, and not just conducive. We are also trying to, personally, I'm trying to understand what are the classical ways in which a classroom ought to be. And this is my ultimate goal for Reformation Wall School. Sorry, I think the second question you asked, I can't remember.
Uh, so, yeah, what you're saying about environment is something that is deeply important to Adrian and I. And
Hmm.
you may be surprised, or perhaps not, to know that um, many schools in the States fall
Hmm.
into the same sort of utilitarian. Well, we have sort of four walls, and
Yes.
and maybe a window,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
it's terribly inhumane. And so
Hmm.
I'm delighted to hear that is a priority for you, something that you want to provide for your students. The other question had to do with perhaps some of the, let's say, ideological or
Oh, okay.
philosophical things. Talk to us about the state of education in those terms.
Oh, okay. All right. Um, okay. So, from my understanding, and as I said, I'm still learning. So, if my language is not that sophisticated, you have to permit me. So, from my understanding, what basically Nigerians, the schools in Nigeria, what happens is the way, like the progressive curriculum, and I'm using that word loosely, that they all use. It, it's really, if I use the word, it's devastating to see the kind of content that these people are teaching. I think I'll be saying it mildly. Um, the thoughts that these young kids learn should not be what a human being that has the desire to to be fully or truly human ought to
Mm,
be learning in the classroom.
mm,
For example, okay, so in Nigeria now, kids are not even taught much of literature, especially in the primary schools.
mm,
They don't read a lot of books. Um, Mostly, what these schools are focused on is maybe, and they don't use the right. I think for me, I'm more pro phonics in teaching them how to read. They don't
Right.
use that. They use just memorizing. They try to help them to memorize words.
Mm.
To yes, that's how they teach them how to read. And aside that, there was a particular I think some months ago, a friend shared with me something that her son was being taught in the classroom, and when I saw it, I almost cried because I felt that this was really, really not it at all. And this is what our government is actually promoting. And in a sense, I think what I would say is that the education is geared more to make humans or Nigerians to have this strong dependence on the government. Like
yeah.
you don't enjoy the idea of freedom. Your mind is not, there's no liberty of the mind. You just have to, think like the government, act like the government, and submit to the government even if they are unruly to you. So it's that, I think that's what the best way to put it. It just centered around that a complete dependence on the government.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And what you're offering, of course, is freeing because you're providing the liberal arts or
Right.
the things
Yeah.
that free you to be fully human.
Mm, exactly.
I'd like to hear a little bit more, like, how did you come up with the name of your school? And is it a Christian school? I
Okay. Yeah. Um, I think there was a time I was searching online for names and I just saw the name Reformation Wall and I think I liked the name. But what the goal, yes, it is a Christian school. So what happened is that we are kind of creating an environment for kids from different Christian denominations to
mm-hmm.
come together to learn about God and His world. Even for us, our mission is to partner with parents to train and equip our students for life of wisdom, virtue, and eloquence to the glory of God. So this has been the central theme of our school since we started. So I just stumbled on the name. I love the name, right? But the goal is to actually reform the minds of our children so that we are helping to redirect their affections from the bad to the good, from the false to the true, and from ugliness to the beautiful. So this is just a general idea of the
Right, to shape their affections to the good, the true, and the beautiful is
exactly,
so that
exactly.
is that is a beautiful way to put it, to shape their affections. I think
Mm.
that's really, really important. And yeah, give me some examples of what you're doing to shape those affections. I mean,
All right.
yeah.
Okay, sure. Normally, what we do to shape their affections also is that I really I'm very careful about the content or the kind of ideas that these children are taught because I know that ideas have consequences. If they are taught the wrong things, they will actually live out the wrong way. So I'm very careful with the kind of ideas that are taught. So what I do is I pick out especially books from maybe the little research that I've made that are highly recommended. Um, Most of them, or many of them, the canons of Western civilization. These are part of the books that we actually teach the children. So they do a lot of they learn all of these things. Well, when we look at the approach that is being used, I'm still learning about that.
Mhm.
So we mix different approaches. We mix both because I still don't know if there ought to be a separation between grammar, logic, and rhetoric, the way
Mhm.
I think some classical schools do. But what we do is that we kind of mix all of them at the same time. But
That's
one person,
that's actually
yes,
more natural, to be honest. It's better
yes,
that way. Yes.
yes. And then one person that I really appreciate is this Charlotte Mersin. I don't know how if that's the way they pronounce her name,
Hmm.
Mersin, right?
That's
Um,
right.
Yes, I listen to some of her podcasts, and she talks about living books, and I think these it's helping me to direct the way things are actually done at our school. So I'm still learning on the job. That's all I would say.
Yes, well, we're right there with you, Daniel. And to mention Charlotte Mason, you are among friends here.
Mhm.
We believe that she is, in so many ways, sort of the flowering of classical education through you know through Christianity. What she
Mm,
brings to the life of the mind and not just our minds, but what we do with our bodies and in our homes and in the atmosphere that we create for learning and those interaction with living books. Yeah,
mm,
that's she is continuing the work of the great minds that came before her, and so I'm
mm,
delighted to hear that you're engaging with her and finding
yeah,
her methods to be something that you can apply immediately in
yeah,
your environment.
yeah,
And
yes.
to go back to the name of your school, the more I hear from you, the more I come to understand you as a reformer
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
someone who is doing the really hard work of um, uh, giving good gifts to children in a time, and it's not just in Nigeria; it's in the States, it's
Mm,
worldwide, in
mm,
which there's a lot of confusion and um, a lot of things have been lost, and you're
mm.
going back and recovering some things and using what you've learned to reform the state of education in your own country, and that's very commendable. So God bless you.
Thank you. Amen.
Yeah, I have a few other questions. You mentioned this before we came on the air. You mentioned you were the
Mm.
headmaster, but you just hired a new headmaster today. Tell us about like why and what's going on with the growth of your school.
Okay. So we had a parent teachers congress today at school, and okay, but before prior to that, I realized that I was doing too much. Okay, so when the school started, I did a lot of things. For example, the school website was designed by me. The everything practically I've written to math textbooks. So far, I was teaching multiple grades at that point, and while serving as the school admin. But the goal is I really have to focus on trying to drive this school to the mission to see that we actually actualize our mission and vision.
Hmm.
And I think it was also getting to the point where physically it was affecting me because I was doing so much. So I was advised to actually employ someone that can help administratively to see that we at the school on day-to-day basis gets to fill the mission of the school. So during the week, the person was employed, a lady. She was employed to head the school, while my role was just see how to assist her to get to the other point. Yeah.
How many? What are the grades and how many students do you have? Did you mention how many students?
Yes, like I would mention again. Currently, we have from K1 to grade 4.
Okay,
So from K1, 2, 3, and we all have students in all grades that I just mentioned now. And we currently have, I think, 30 students. We have 30 students in the
30.
school
Okay.
currently.
Okay. Now, you do grades or forms. I know in England they do forms, and like form 3 would be almost high school.
Yeah, yeah. But okay. We do grades actually. The way it's
Grades.
done in the
Okay.
US, the same.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was good to clarify. I didn't realize that. I was like, wait a minute, they might be using forms.
Daniel, I'd love to hear about your own background, and
Yeah.
maybe you can tell us a bit about your education coming up through the years, and then maybe talk to us about that point in your life where you decided you needed to pursue this classical education route.
Okay. So I attended private schools from primary down to the university. I actually attended a Christian university in Nigeria. It's called Covenant University. And throughout my stay at throughout my stay at each of the schools, I've realized that most of what or most schools actually say they say more than they actually do in school. So, for example, my university, when they are pitching the ideas to the public, they claim they do this, they do that, they do that. But then in the classrooms, the caliber of teachers actually are not there. The teachers are completely I believe they go against the mission of the schools that I've
Mm,
attended. They
mhm,
don't deliver the way they ought to be. So all these things has been, I did engineering, but they made me to hate engineering completely. Like
Mm,
I got
mm,
into school and I hated engineering, not
mhm.
because I didn't love calculus or I didn't love things about machines, but because of their approach to communicating these ideas
Sure.
to us. So for me, one of the things that started ringing at the back of my mind was that I really wanted to teach in a way that would, kind of flame the affections of young children. I want them to be on fire so that even after I have finished teaching them, they can go by themselves and continue whatever they've been taught. And so I think so far I believe I've been able to achieve that in a sense because I know my students actually want me to teach them. In fact, they want me to teach them more than anyone. So even though I've given up the role of the headmaster, I still want to continue teaching. In fact, I actually enjoy that more than the administrative role.
Right.
So I'm hoping the
That's how
power
we
of
are too.
knowledge.
We love teaching too.
Yeah. So I've given up that role. I'm currently teaching my grade 4 students. Last week I was teaching them the Iliad and Odyssey, and they were so animated by what I was teaching them. Like the excitement that the classics are just, I don't know. I don't know what word I can use to describe it, but going into the classics is this is the best thing I've ever encountered in my entire life. So well, and then I think for me, what maybe the little challenge that I'm having is that it's difficult to bend. Like, I'm using that word. It's difficult to actually help the maybe staff to come to see the beauty of the classics because of how they've been groomed over the years. So
Yeah,
one
that's
thing
right.
I start doing, yeah, one thing I start doing to them is that I give them a lot of things to read.
Oh,
And I
good.
don't I don't really joke with that. So we go back to the classics. They complain that these books are so difficult to read. I say, yes, but read it. It will benefit you eventually. And I think I'm getting or they are getting to the point where I can say, yes, yes, these people are actually
Yeah,
capturing the idea of classical education.
yeah. I just want to say in response to that, that to just sort of paint a picture of the future, uh, Lord willing, if we can continue our work, what we're finding here, where this classical education has been, developing in the States, for the last 30 years or so, we're getting to that
Mm.
point where students who grew up with that education are now becoming the teachers, and they don't have
Yeah.
those same sort of hangups and those same sort of they don't trip over the
Mm.
same things that that we do now, because we're having to get a remedial education. So what you can
Mm.
look forward to, and for some of those students, your young students, maybe we won't be around to see the fruit
Mm.
of the harvest there, but you can know with great confidence that you are preparing the hearts and minds of future teachers and future parents and future government leaders and future businessmen and women.
Mm.
They're going to be so much fuller and reconnected to their birthright and to what it means to be a human being, and
Mm.
so it's an honor and a privilege as a teacher to learn alongside them.
Mm.
And so thank you for encouraging your teachers to read and for expecting that from them. And I have a request for you. Lord willing, um, can you come here and train some teachers with us?
Right.
If I have the opportunity to do that, absolutely I will.
I'm praying for that right now. That would
Yeah.
be, yeah.
Well, I think that you've captured the spirit and the heart of classical education, and the spirit of classical
Mm.
education. You're defining it so beautifully, that the excitement, the joy, the love, and to not be afraid to learn with your students is a big deal. I mean, a lot of teachers feel like they have to know it all before they can go in and teach. And I think that when you're learning alongside your students, you're posturing yourself with humility, which is
Hmm.
really the leading
Yeah.
virtue of
Hmm.
wisdom, the leading virtue of
Mm.
attaining wisdom, of love and
Hmm.
care. And this really is the heart
Mm.
of a classical education. Um, I wanted
Okay.
to ask what you're doing to help the parents understand. Are they reading specific books, or are you having dialogue with the parents?
Okay. Um, so for the parents, it's a bit challenging. Okay, this is how it works here. the parents love absolutely what we do. They love the idea, but one of the things that we struggle with is that most parents don't have the understanding that they are the first and primary educators in the life of their children.
Yeah.
So far, what we do from time to time is that we have meetings in the school, and I use the opportunity to explain to them what classical education is and the work that we're actually doing in the lives of their children. So far, we've not been able to recommend any books to them, but I think this is something I would do going forward since you mentioned it. I think I will do that going forward.
Yeah,
Mm.
or at least some short, short essays or even stories
Mm,
for them to read. Do
mm.
you recommend stories for them to read to their children at home?
Yes, this is something we actually are actually driving at the school. We had books donated to us by Rafiki Foundation,
Nice.
and like so many books. So these books are what we use to actually furnish the students. So we send sometimes we give the parents books. We send the books home to the parents so that they can read to the children. No matter how difficult the book is, we actually encourage them read hard text to the children. Let them
Right.
see the joy of these books. So yeah.
Beauty.
Yeah.
I would love to
Mm.
find out a little bit more about what are your needs and how can we help you? Like how can
Ooh,
Trey and I help you? From
okay.
the work we're doing, but then even our as Americans, I mean, our listeners are probably wondering, well, how could we help
Yeah.
him? What are your needs?
Oh wow. I mean the needs are huge. I'm a single man, right? And I'm running a school. I just turned I'm turning 33 this month, and I started the school when I was 28 or thereabout. So the needs are much, honestly. In fact, one of the reasons why I had to step down was because of the stress that was on me running the school. So recently, we actually started um, on our Instagram page, and I've been updating on the Facebook page and on Twitter too. We actually started a little fundraising to be able to pay our school rent and the rest of them. And then the other thing we do is we actually need books. I think that's even more important to me than any form of financial donation. We need great books of Western civilization to be sent to us. If we have all the books of Charlotte, I don't know, Charlotte Messin, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that name well. We don't have any, and I really would love to have some of our books down. I read her books on the
Mm.
internet, and they are
Hmm.
quite not as
Right. Yeah,
very
they
nice
are
and
online. Charlotte Mason's series is all online on the Ambleside Online website, but it
yeah.
is harder to read
Mm,
it online. I did that for a while, and then I was like, I just need the books. You need the books for
Mm.
sure. Now,
Yeah.
I think I noticed a friend of yours on our Facebook page. He posted asking where he can get the Great Books series for less than
Oh yes.
$1,500. It's so expensive. Like, so you just need somebody here in the States to ship you a set of the great
Yeah.
books, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a set.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I might ship it to you and just buy
Yeah.
myself another one. I mean, really, seriously, because
Oh.
boy,
Well,
that's huge need. So we may need your
yeah.
contact
We
information.
we have the strange benefit of going to secondhand shops and finding
Right.
these books that people have
Mm,
discarded
Yeah.
because there's
mm,
there's simply not the proper uh, you know well, they just haven't been preserved. And so, when older
yeah.
people pass away, oftentimes their children will donate their books to a secondhand shop.
Mm,
And so, yeah, I think we could definitely put some book boxes together for you. And you mentioned
mm.
that you're a single guy, and I imagine if you send us your phone number, some of our single women that are listening, I think they'd marry you in a heartbeat.
Oh, I was thinking the same thing. I wasn't brave enough to say it, but I was thinking it. I'm glad you said it, Trey, and not me.
Uh, no problem. I know my phone numbers or whatever information that you needed can be shared. I don't mind. I don't mind if that is done.
Oh, well, we really hope our listeners will rally together and find a way to support you. Maybe we'll have to do some kind of
Mm,
drive on our Facebook page for it, because this sounds
mm.
like amazing work. And do you have a book list of like a wish list of books that you need? Because we would need that to help everybody know what to send
Okay.
you.
Mhm.
I think I would want basically books, classical books for kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yes, those are really my priority at the moment. Maybe for the primary school, because um, we're just mixing a lot of things. That's the point. We're reading both the classical ones and the non-classical ones, just to But if we are able to
Mm-hmm.
get, it doesn't matter the type.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. It doesn't matter the type of book, right? But as long as it's classical,
Sure.
I'm down with it.
And you need
Yeah.
picture
Okay.
books too, probably, like beautiful picture books for the children with,
Mhm.
illustrations. And
Yes,
yeah.
yes, that would
Yeah.
really be helpful. Yeah.
Well, speaking of books, Daniel, one of the questions we like to ask our guest is, is there a book in your life, something that has really just had a big impact on the way you think about things, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something directly related to how like a how-to on teaching or
Classical
Okay.
classical
education.
pedagogy.
All
It could be
right.
any book.
Yes,
Just
I do.
what comes to mind?
Okay. I've been reading. Oh, I love reading books written by Austrian economists. Um, so I love books written by Ludwig von Mises.
Mhm.
I think he wrote a book on omnipotent government. So what he tried to do in that book is to kind of give an expose of how it is quite dangerous to grant government absolute power. I think
Mhm.
that's the total listen. And then that kind of his writings are actually, because when growing up we were taught to so much depend on government to eat for
Mhm.
every single thing. So, but then I realized that it was breeding so many lazy people down here in Nigeria. And honestly, that's the situation right now. You see so many lazy people, so many entitled people, people that wouldn't want to do anything, and they're waiting for the government for stipends or whatnot. But Ludwig von Mises was able, his books has been able to, open my mind to see that if I'm effective, if I'm, putting in the work, if I'm able to create value, I can, exchange that for money. I can, if I'm contributing to society, I can actually do that and be able to take care of myself. So that actually helped me also
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
starting Reformation Wall.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, I'm always glad to hear of people who are reading and thinking deeply about subjects that I sort of struggle to wrap my head around. I'm so happy that you are reading and thinking deeply about economics. And one of the
Mm,
things that I want to say to our listeners is that economics is something that everyone needs to have some sort of engagement with, all the way down to the home, right? Because the economy of the home is really where this all starts, and those smaller
mm,
economies in the home, when they combine together, they make up the economy of the community, which makes up the economy of the state, and the whole world is working together, these various economies. And so one of the
mm,
things that I can think about, not only as a teacher but also as a father, is how do I run the economy of my own home, and what am I
mm,
doing inside of that economy um, to operate on those good principles that ultimately we
mm.
would like to see function at the higher levels.
Mhm.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Daniel, for coming on our show. And I feel like I've learned so much. And I
Thank
just
you so much for
really
having me.
love the heart of the work you're doing. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the work that we do here. I'm just hoping that many people would be inspired to actually start the work in their own communities,
Hmm.
because I believe classical education is what every single person, even if you're not a Christian, you need classical education. Every single person needs
Right.
classical education.
Yep. Charlotte
Thank you.
Mason says the liberal arts is the birthright of every child.
Exactly.
That's right. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you so much for listening. We invite you to experience the art of teaching through interactive learning communities at our Patreon page. Visit patreon.com/classical education. Also, be sure to join the conversation on our Facebook community at facebook.com/groups/classical education. We are a listener supported podcast, so your support makes this podcast possible. As the great artist and educator John Ruskin once wrote, "Well, my friends, the final result of the education I want you to give your children will be, in a few words, this: they will know what it is to see the sky, they will know what it is to breathe it, and they will know, best of all, what it is to behave under it, as in the presence of a Father who is in heaven."